The most interesting guests. The coolest conversations. Keep watching episodes of the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott. Follow the Grizzly Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many more apps to have our episodes delivered right to your iPhone, Android, or any other device whenever they're released. Can't get enough of the Grizzly Podcast? Stay up to date with all our latest news, events, and behind-the-scenes footage by visiting grizzlypodcast.com.
So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. I am your host, Irvin Scott, and today I am joined by a very special guest. She is an actress, singer, and dancer. Best known for her role as Caitlin on Disney Channel's Camp Rock and its sequel, Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. She's voiced the character Isabella Garcia Shapiro in the Disney animated series Phineas and Ferb. She's also known for her role as Sarah Baker in Cheaper by the Dozen and Cheaper by the Dozen 2, starring Steve Martin. She was a backup dancer for Missy Elliott and more. She currently appears on Disney Channel's Hamster and Gretel as Lauren or the Destructress. She is the co-founder of Movement Genius. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Alyson Stoner.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Alyson, thank you so much for joining us on the Grizzly Podcast. You know what? This is a long time coming, but we finally did it. I've been trying to get you on the show for quite some time now. We crossed paths back in the day, and the pandemic happened and we kind of lost contact within that time frame. We also have mutual friends, so unfortunately we were never able to do it back then, but timing is everything, and we're finally here. We can finally do this. How are things with you?
Yes, I'm so well, and I love this full circle moment that we first met at a gas station to start with, and then discovered we have mutual friends. And now, so much, as you mentioned, so much of life has happened in the past couple of years. But I feel grounded today and grateful to be collaborating with my team on a lot of projects, supporting people's well-being, and really feels like I'm, in my own imperfect humanity. I feel like today I'm doing the best I can to support as many people as we can. And that feels very rewarding and valuable. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I appreciate you asking. And but similar to you, I'm on my grind. The Grizzly Podcast is all about taking folks such as yourself who are constantly grinding, constantly hustling, just doing your best to help motivate others along the way to stay on their grind. And also, you're somebody who is working towards their dreams and goals. And that's basically what we do here. That's what we're all about. Just encouraging people to pursue their dreams. So, Alyson, you've accomplished so much in your career, and we got a lot to talk about. But before we get started, are you ready to take them back?
Let's do it.
You were born in Toledo, Ohio. Is that correct?
That's correct.
While growing up in Toledo, Ohio, you studied ballet, tap dance, and jazz dance at the O'Connell's Dance Studio.
That's correct. And I was training from 3 to 6 years old. And then around 6, attended a convention where I tried, modeling and acting. And it really was with no other intention besides, I think, just, allowing kids to explore creative outlets. And suddenly, unexpectedly, at the convention, we performed in several categories. And I was fortunate to receive several awards there and encouragements to try it out in LA or New York with, the big agents and managers in Hollywood. And again, no one in my family knew anything about entertainment. So it really wasn't like we had a clear vision or goal. We really just thought, oh, maybe it's kind of a special opportunity to try something new. And then we can go back and share the memories and move forward. Well, once I made it to LA, it was a bit of a snowball from the outside in a very positive way, in terms of, going on auditions, receiving callbacks, starting to book work earlier than maybe we expected to, or I expected to. And that was beautiful. But then that definitely meant that there were other things in terms of my normal education or social life. Like everything kind of got disrupted from thereafter. So by the time I was 7, I was in Hollywood.
In 2001, you became the co-host of the My Super Short Show, along with Michael Allen Johnson. And this is a show that would air on Disney Channel, and where you and Michael would promote Disney's upcoming movie releases. What was it like being a part of Mike's Super Short Show at that time?
That's a great question, and I will have to go back into my memory bank because it's been over a decade since I've thought about this. I will say that I have really wonderful memories with Michael, and we got to play siblings. And I think something that was beautiful about that show is we were promoting all of Disney's releases, but it meant we, as the hosts, got to meet a lot of the casts, and we got to do special themed episodes. For example, with I think The Lion King, we brought in like actual, wild animals through a formal company, of course, all safety measures and protocols in place. And it's just really unique experiences. And then we would get to go to red carpets and interview people. And I think it actually helped prepare a lot of my future, podcast interviewing skills, learning how to be on camera and answer things in, editable sound bites. So I have that show to thank for a lot of the professional etiquette that I learned. And then just as a fun note, because it was on Disney Channel, it meant my family and friends in Ohio could see it. So all of my smaller projects leading up to that, we were just trying to say, no, it's going really well out here, but we had nothing to show for it. And then Mike's was a chance for people to be like, oh, this is a real thing. She's actually working.
In 2003 and 2005, you appeared as Sarah Baker in Cheaper by the Dozen and Cheaper by the Dozen 2, alongside Steve Martin, Bonnie Hunt, Hilary Duff, Tom Welling, and more. What was it like being a part of a project such as this one and working with a cast as large as that one?
Right. So if I'm remembering correctly, Cheaper was my first film. And I think by then I had appeared in the Missy video because when I went into audition, they sort of put 2 and 2 together and said, wait, if you're that person, that means you have a lot more sass than we, imagined. So we're actually going to have you try out for a different character who's a bit snarkier and more assertive, which was the character of Sarah Baker. And so I think originally Sarah was supposed to be like 16 years old. I definitely was much younger than that at the time. But because of the personality that they witnessed in the Missy video, they said, like, why don't you just bring some of that flavor into this character? We'll age her down. Even though I think Cheaper is, it was a remake. It was based on a previous project that had already been out. And I think maybe there was a book or something. So, once we got on set, it was an absolute joy, like truly one of the greatest gifts to be among a crew and a cast of people who felt like family. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons why it was so sad when we would have to say goodbye at the end of the shoots. You felt like, oh, we bonded so deeply and I trust these people. And They feel like real siblings, and to this day, I'm in touch with several people, and that's just a testament to the kind of experience we had back in the day.
Any fond memories of Steve Martin himself?
Yeah, so Steve is an incredible banjo player and musician, and like award-winning, if people are not aware. And so he would often go back to his trailer and sit outside on this little what do you call it? It's like the fake grass little deck area, and his dog at the time, Roger, who has now since passed away, sadly, would hang out with us, and he'd just play music. And I think he ended up giving lessons to a couple of the kids. So I think Forrest, who played the character that went by FedEx in the movies, I think he actually got to go to like Steve's house to learn how to play from him, which I never got to do. But that sounded very cool.
Very cool. Did not know that about Steve Martin, but sounds like a fun time. And in addition to that, you also worked with Hilary Duff. What was it like working with Hilary Duff? Was she like an older sister to you at the time? Or, I mean, I know you have a sister, but was she kind of like a sister, or like a mentor while working on this movie?
Yeah, I think I was so starstruck at that age. I remember doing the most embarrassing thing where I walked up to her and I blurted out like lyrics to one of her songs. And I didn't mean to, but it was so present in my mind because the only association I had of her was the music I loved and the shows that I watched. And so definitely did the fangirl moment. And I think I just really looked up to her. I admired her as someone who was already established in the industry. And she was very personable and very sweet. We were all kind of segmented. You know, some of the kids were in school during the day, others were on set. Hillary was a bit older and had her own trailer and area. And so it was kind of like coming together during the scenes and then having our own spaces in between. And yeah, just nothing but wonderful memories. I do remember a specific scene where I was supposed to go out on a date with the character Elliot Murtaugh. And I was wearing some shirt that had drawstrings or pants that had drawstrings, something, and they got all bunched in this like horrible knot. And Hillary came up and said, "Hey, I happen to like be really good at undoing knots. Can I help?" And I remember feeling so like excited that Hillary cared enough to help me with my outfit. And it kind of mirrored this moment that's in the movie between the sisters where she's going out on the date and Hillary's character is like trying to be supportive. So we had a little bit of that parallel in real life. And I remember feeling like so flattered and so excited that Hillary wanted to help me.
After training as a dancer, you obviously appeared as a backup dancer in several music videos, notably Missy Elliott's Work It, Gossip Folks, and I'm Really Hot. What was it like being a part of those videos and working with Missy Elliott at the time?
Yes. So I cannot speak highly enough about Missy and Missy's team and every experience I've ever had with her. Interestingly, I wasn't going to go to that audition. I lived outside of LA, and I think we had just spent a lot of time with parents helping me with callbacks and jobs, and we wanted to give more attention to my siblings and their activities. So when this audition came in, it was like, this might be something where we need to just pass, which we don't do often because when you're in the industry, you feel very dedicated and devoted. And so if an opportunity comes in, you're like, you definitely want to drop everything and go do it. However, we also saw that it was like a rapper, a hip hop music video. And the only reference points we had as people from like a white family from Toledo was like, rap music videos with, club settings and like people who are hardly clothed and, vulgar lyrics. And so we were like, I don't know if this is the right fit. But then my sisters knew who Missy was and they were like, you have to go. Like, she's incredible. And I think somewhere on the call or on the audition, it was like, don't worry, like we'll only be using a clean section of the song. We'll be mindful of the themes, keep it age appropriate. Still, we just didn't know what to expect. But at the audition, it was like a cattle call of like, 800 kids, all shapes, sizes, races, like everything. And so we had no clue what they were looking for. But I made it through, several rounds of cuts, and then got the call that I booked the gig. Still had no idea what we were really getting into. Showed up on set. There was, a bunch of other kids who I didn't see at the audition, and like noticed right then and there, like, wait, they just put me in a different outfit from everyone else. Like, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, ooh, I don't know. But went on set, saw the environment of the kind of like ghost town playground, whatever they had designed. And they, put us in, showed us the movements. We filmed it. And, and at that point, I'm like, I'm just a hired dancer trying to do my best to do my job well. And we had no idea how, the world would receive the videos. And it it catapulted my career for sure. I have Missy to thank for that. But also continued to just help me understand hip hop culture with such a different vantage point than I would have had I not been a part of the community and had that kind of proximity. So I'm so grateful. Like, so many of my dance mentors, taught me about the origins of hip hop, the elements of hip hop, the fundamental vocabulary. And like, I have such a much deeper appreciation for Missy, and just the genre of music and culture that hip hop is, because of those experiences. And I carry that with me, everywhere I go. Now when I teach, like, if anyone ever brings me in, I'm like, make sure we talk about like the socio-political movements that inform, the evolution of hip hop, and like being able to transfer some of that information as opposed to what I would have been able to offer before, which is just like a studio competition kid who didn't know anything about the context. It just feels super important to be able to honor like the whole story of it. So yeah, and Missy's wonderful, like so kind, so humble, but at the same time, like just the biggest superstar. You're like, you give off superstar energy while also having such a grace and like compassionate presence. So yeah, I respect her so much.
And it's so cool to hear about your relationship with Missy Elliott, because she actually invited you to perform Work It with her at the 2019 MTV VMAs. What was it like reuniting with Missy in 2019 at the MTV VMAs just to perform Work It one more time?
Yeah, I hadn't been dancing for a little bit, and I was nervous about how my body would function compared to the last time I did those moves, however many years beforehand. And it was a last minute call. Missy's team, Hi-Hat, her choreographer and creative director, texted my mom's cell phone, because back in the day, I need the guardian on set. So the contact she had was my mother. My mother sent me the message right away and was like, hey, you got to reach out. I think Hi-Hat's trying to get a hold of you. And it was a matter of like 48 hours or something where I was on a plane and was suddenly like, or I think actually I was in the area. That's right. I was in the area working on a commercial for Pepsi or something. We were doing a collaboration celebrating Missy already in the area. And so I was like, hey, I actually am in town. Like, we can make this happen. So when I got to stage, I thought it was going to be like a choreographed moment. And then Hi-Hat was like, no, just like freestyle, like just do your thing. And I thought, really? You're going to trust me after not knowing me, seeing me like dance for this many years? But she did. And they gave me my stage blocking. I only had like 2 times to practice before it was next time was showtime. And I just thought, this is such a beautiful full circle moment. Instead of trying to get too in my head about being a perfectionist as a performer, or like worrying too much about the judgment, like what if I show up and actually, do some calming exercises beforehand so I can stay present and really savor the gift of this, and not just consider, how people are viewing me, but also really have an exchange, like share energy with the people in the space. Because this is going to be such a beautiful moment of nostalgia, a beautiful moment of celebrating Missy. And so I really approached that performance in a different way than I normally do. And I said, like, how can I feel the connection to the space, feel the connection to Missy, feel the connection to the fans, and people listening, and feel the connection to the crew who brought this to life. And that made it so meaningful in a way that I can remember in my body. Because, typically you have these moments and you're like, adrenaline spike, like you're out there, you don't remember anything. You get off stage and you're like, I think it went well, but I'll have to watch the footage. This one I felt like super present, and it was, a great gift to be a part of it.
It's so cool to hear about your dance journey. Obviously, you've met so many wonderful people in this industry. And unfortunately, there was one member of the dance community that we actually lost. And I'm referring to Stephen Boss, the late, great Twitch. I know you guys were very close. Tell me more about what your relationship was like with Twitch.
Yeah, rest in peace. He's a special human, and someone all of us looked up to in terms of, his commitment to the craft, as well as to being a kind human, and working hard, loving his family. So, when you learn later that there are so many other struggles that someone's experiencing, it's hard to compare that to the moments you shared that you couldn't detect any of that going on. And so that was very rattling for us. And it's brought a lot of things into focus. And it shows me also why I'm so passionate about supporting artists in particular, with their mental health and well-being, because I don't know what Stephen was experiencing. But if there's anything that added to the stress from navigating a commercial industry, or being a person with certain identity markers in spaces where you don't feel like you can be your full self, or artists that are constantly pouring out from very vulnerable places within themselves, like there are just a number of factors that are unique to navigating the industry, that I want to be able to better support others, so that this doesn't continue happening, because he's a bright light, and had so much to give, and we're obviously heartbroken that he isn't here still. Now we're committed to supporting his family, his wife and kids, and I just saw them a couple of days ago, actually. So it's very fresh, and one day at a time. But definitely, want to honor who he was, and how he lived while he was here. He gave his heart and soul. Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. to Twitch. I was around him, I want to say at least 2 or 3 times, and the times I was around him, he was such a positive soul. I'm glad that, you're also doing something very positive and helping others. And, with that being said, let's jump right into it, because you are the co-founder of Movement Genius. And Movement Genius is basically all about doing that, just, doing something positive for others. And, and I'll let you talk about it, because you're obviously somebody that helped start this whole thing. So tell us a little bit more about Movement Genius, and what is it that you guys primarily focus on?
Movement Genius is a platform that has stress relief techniques, mental and emotional health skills, and movement classes that are designed by therapists to support well-being. So you can think of it as, the one-stop shop to care for your mind, your body, and your emotions. And we offer a library of classes on demand. So you can find a 3-minute stress relief video or a full 45-minute class. Or you can take our weekly classes with the experts, just to have more of a communal, kind of personable interaction, and you can tap into that sense of support, and you can follow along other people's journeys as well. It's, something that came about at the beginning of the pandemic, when we observed, each of us trying to learn how to cope in, an abrupt change of environment and lifestyle. And we noticed the spike in anxiety and depression and emotional overwhelm. and, small and big kinds of trauma that people were experiencing. And so I thought, how can I use the platforms that I have to bring together the experts who can, share tools that otherwise might feel like they're reserved for, folks who can afford therapy or folks who can go to these special exclusive wellness retreats. Like, how do we get the leading scientifically backed tools that we all need to be more accessible and just with the click of a button? And so we built Movement Genius. The signature approach that we take is, if you're addressing your mental health, you absolutely have to reflect on your mind-body connection and where stress and anxiety and trauma and emotions are stored in your body. So all of our tools help you integrate both what's going on upstairs and downstairs. And it really helps you claim power over your well-being. Instead of feeling stuck or disconnected or overwhelmed, you have the tools to manage whatever that day brings. And I will say, we can let everyone here listening, if you're interested, you can try a full month free. We'll do a special code Grizzly, and then people can tap into it. And, you can start with we have a category called Getting Started. You can learn 10 stress relief techniques in under 10 minutes. So if you're like short on time, but you need to feel better, definitely recommend that. And then also, if you want to come say hi, like, we have weekly classes. I'm there. My sister, co-founder, is there. And our therapists and movement practitioners, pain management specialists, all of the people involved are just like so about the people, and so about you being able to check in with where you are in that day. No pressure, like, start where you are. You can show up with any energy, any mood, and receive the benefits of the tools, and also have hopefully a moment of encouragement, like, okay, I can do this. Like, I can get through the rest of this week or the rest of today, or even just the rest of this hour. So we're definitely there as your safe and brave place to learn how to care for yourself.
I love that. Now, Alyson, for anybody interested in learning more about Movement Genius, where can they find all that information?
Yeah, so you can go to movementgenius.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at Movement Genius. And if you share any show notes, we can put those links in the description and make sure we add that code too. So, as you sign up, you can get that full month free.
In 2011, back when you were 17 years old, you were hospitalized, and you even checked yourself into a rehab facility for eating disorders. Having struggled with anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder for years, you credit therapy for assisting you in your recovery. So did this experience help inspire Movement Genius?
Yeah. So, and just to clarify, because I know people who are dealing with eating disorders or disordered eating, there are so many different terms. And for my experience with bulimia, it was exercise related. So I was using movement as a way to, quote unquote, purge the calories. I wasn't, it wasn't another form of bulimia. And for me, it was a crisis moment, and it brought a lot of things into focus. I got to see just how much pressure I was putting myself under for my job. I got to see how skewed my lifestyle and habits had become, which unfortunately in the industry are sometimes kind of common. People treat their bodies in all kinds of interesting ways for roles and for, I guess, trying to live up to unattainable beauty standards and whatnot. So I definitely was influenced by that, and was, I had that outcome where my body started shutting down. It said, we can't do this anymore. Something has to change. So that was a moment of deep reflection. I wanted to recover. I really, 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 didn't want to be struggling with this on a daily basis. And so I, started therapy at a young age, stayed in therapy. So fortunate that the therapist not only helped me with the mindset shift, but also provided some of these, we call them somatic tools, body-centered tools, to retrain my nervous system so I could deal with the anxiety and the discomfort and all the things that I was using food, to cope with. And so I definitely can say, that does directly connect to the kinds of tools Movement Genius provides, because that approach, the mind and body approach, is what truly changed my life, as well as my sister's, who had a totally different health journey, and recovery, and then also for millions of other folks who have maybe approached mental health thinking just about like medication or meditation or therapy, and then physical health as like diet, exercise, sleep, and forgetting that all of this is deeply intertwined, and you actually need tools that like address both simultaneously, that can really assist with deeper transformation. So for sure that sparked the journey, and then I kept studying and went on to get my own certifications in the mind body space, and then started bringing in the other experts, because I was like, I don't need no, not a single person is going to have all the answers, but how can we collectively pool the best tools that are available and make them the most inclusive as possible, meaning no matter your identity, no matter your physical embodiment, no matter your socioeconomic status, you can show up and find a tool that meets you where you are right now, because it's made with you in mind, as opposed to a lot of tools right now where you're like, this clearly was built by and for a very narrow set of people. So that's what the spine of Movement Genius is. Mental health must include the body, and mental health must include everybody.
So again, for anybody interested in learning more about Movement Genius, Alyson had mentioned you can check out the website, movementgenius.com. And Alyson, I want to go back to your acting career, because, back in the day, obviously you appeared in several television shows, and some of the television shows that I remember in particular were television shows that I grew up with myself. These shows were The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, That's So Raven, and Drake and Josh. So you played the role of Max in the Disney Channel hit series, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. What was it like working with Dylan and Cole Sprouse?
I remember just feeling like I was finding friends and peers who, had shared interests, and they were already incredibly comedic and super polished. I was coming in thinking I started young, but they had been in it already several years before. And I was also really impressed with just the way the sets were run. Like, everyone kind of knew where they needed to be, and, the machine did its thing. And, as kids, like, we had to still go to 3 hours of schooling while we were on set. So we would have these kind of pseudo normal experiences, and then these very unusual experiences of performing in front of a live studio audience. When you're watching the show and you hear people laughing on a sitcom, like, sometimes that's a canned laugh track. Sometimes it's like actually real people. So that was a blast to experience. And Cole and Dylan are great. They're super talented. I haven't really stayed in touch with them very much over the years, but, I'm always wishing everyone well, especially from Disney and Nickelodeon days, because we had an interesting just like path of being in, the public eye, more than the typical childhood experience. So we share some things that are highly unrelatable for most people, but for us, we're like, we feel very seen when we run into each other. We're like, one recognizes the other, and like, I see you deeply. So I'm always wishing for everyone's best like health and well-being.
You actually played the role of Allie Parker on That's So Raven, and this is very interesting to me because the episode served as a pilot to a spin-off series titled Better Days. And the series would focus primarily on your character, Allie, who is a child actress trying to live a normal life. Eventually, though, the series was dropped, and I believe the concept of the series would later be used for Disney's Hannah Montana. So can you tell me more about what happened during that period?
Yeah, so if I can clarify a couple of things, we actually filmed our episode of That's So Raven as the pilot at the same time that Hannah Montana was already scripted and in development and filming their pilot. So eventually, as with most pilot seasons, you have several shows that go up for like the 1 or 2 available slots. And then, for a variety of reasons, only that one or two are chosen. So in our case, my concept, as well as Hannah Montana, had the nature of like the lead living sort of this double life. My theory is that with Hannah Montana, there were added elements of music and the capability of this person having a music career, touring. I'm thinking merchandising. I'm thinking like a whole thing. Also, Miley's affiliation with her father, like there's some star power and some other aspects going into the budgeting for their pilot. It was a little bit more robust than the money going into the episode that I was filming. But it's not like there was any, there's no hard feelings, because that's the nature. That's the expected flow of how the industry works in pilot season. When I tell you, I think I've been on like 7, or is it 10? I've done something like 7 to 10 pilots that had stacked casts that were like slated to go on all the major networks, and none of them have gotten picked up. So there were 7 to 10 times I was almost a series regular, almost had a big break, almost could have been on a show that lasted for 12 years, like Friends, whatever, but that's just the nature of the industry. So you kind of, you just keep doing your thing over and over and over. And then some days it hits, and other days it's like, great, it didn't work out. That I did this film called Mr. Invincible. I thought it was going to be like an actual big break in my career. And then they got into a snag between like the production company and the distribution company, and literally just shoved it because they couldn't work out their like differences and conflict internally. Meanwhile, a whole cast and crew were like expecting this to change their careers. I was one of the leads next to the person playing the character, as Mr. Invincible. And it was just wild how like small things can make complete difference in our career paths and trajectories. So, you just keep showing up and like, this is my craft. If I only get to perform this here and no one else sees it tomorrow, I still feel committed to giving my all, because it's not just the outcome, it's also the process. And I'll be shaped by how I show up now. And, you carry that experience with you. I think of like people like Viola Davis. I'm like, I can't imagine how many times she heard no, how many ways things didn't pan out for her. But like everything she experienced, she continued to allow to shape her in a way that just made her such a powerhouse. And now I'm so glad that the industry said yes, and woke up, came to their senses, because like she's such a legendary talent and human. So that's the nature of the business, though.
Alyson, you also made an appearance on Drake and Josh, and your character was Melissa Wendy Winkle. What was it like being a part of that series as well? And obviously, this is a different network. It's not Disney Channel, it's Nickelodeon, obviously. So what was it like being part of another show?
Nickelodeon has a very different environment. The atmosphere felt, it almost felt like Disney was the more conservative network, where we were very mindful of what we could or couldn't say. And then Nickelodeon was like the cool cousin who like could be a little edgier. They'd get away with saying words like, I don't know if I don't think they ever cussed, but if they said maybe crap or something, and Disney would never tolerate that. And like some of the outfits on Disney, like we would have to cover, if I was going to wear a skirt, I'd have to like go below the knee or something. But on Nickelodeon, you'd see like different fashion choices that were considered a little edgier or more mature. So when I was working on Drake and Josh, I think I just felt a little bit of that spirit. Like there's a little bit of a spunk to the like cast, like how they interacted. It felt, I don't know, just like it felt like I was hanging out with the cool kids. And then when I was on Disney sets, it felt more like, hanging out with the safe family. Both were wonderful experiences, though. So super grateful.
So, Alyson, you also voiced the character Isabella Garcia Shapiro in the Disney animated series Phineas and Ferb. Tell me more about what this character is like.
Yeah, so Isabella Garcia Shapiro was the leader of the Fireside Girls, which is similar to kind of like the Girl Scout concept. And she is, kind of obsessed with Phineas, the lead of the show, just has a crush on him. I think really admires how inventive he is. And, he's always constantly coming up with these like beautiful or like these imaginative summer projects with his stepbrother. And so she wants to be, a supporter and get in there and help them accomplish their visions however she can. And she's, very charismatic and such a leader, very precocious. And she's a joy to play. Her voice is like super high. I can't do it right now, but they're bringing back the series. So I'm going to have to start warming up my voice and hitting that octave again. But I will say that the creators of the show are like father figures to me. And I've been so fortunate to continue working with them on their other shows. So really I've known them since I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10. And now just to be like, everyone's older, the cast is married, we're all like doing our own things. It's like a beautiful gift to be able to say we've done life together for that long.
Very cool to see that you're a part of that again. And you're also voicing a different character these days. You currently appear on Disney Channel's Hamster and Gretel, and your character there is Lauren, or the Destructress. What's it like being a part of this series, by the way?
Yeah, I like this series specifically because I finally get to play the villain. I've always been characters that are like the moral compass or the best friend who is there to, remind the main character of her worth and value. And now I'm like, let's, just take down the city. So playing a supervillain is very fun. And then she kind of has two identities when she's on duty and off duty. And there's this fun dynamic with my brother / co-villain, and played by Brock. And Brock is brilliant as a voice artist. There are such unique, like specific skill sets that come with being a truly, remarkable voice actor. And Brock is one of the people I admire a ton. So to be able to play off of them is, it's a gift. And just from a standpoint of representation, it's very neat that, the lead of the series plus Brock and myself, we all identify as non-binary. So just seeing that Disney is welcoming, people who have queer experiences, people who have other experiences of gender expression and identity is very refreshing, because 10, 15 years ago, the doors weren't open in that way. So to be embraced and to be able to, like, of course, we're here to focus on the art. We're here to focus on the stories, but that there's room for all of us is it's really special.
So, Alyson, you played the role of Caitlin on Disney Channel's Camp Rock and its sequel, Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. Can you tell me more about what it was like being a part of both films? And what was it like working with Demi Lovato?
Yes. So originally, I actually auditioned to play the lead, I believe. And then, as with a lot of Disney auditions, they end up kind of rotating you through a couple different character options. And so eventually, we were doing sort of a like chemistry test where different people were seeing how they play off of each other. And I remember auditioning with Demi, and I went in as Caitlin, and Demi was Mitchie at that point. And there was just like a natural rapport. Like we just seemed to play off of each other in a way that felt like we had known each other for a while. And I know Demi at the time was already on a different series for them. I had done work for them as well. So there was a sense of familiarity. And we kind of probably instinctively knew from a performance standpoint, like what casting was looking for. So we, went in, we tested together. We both booked it. And the things I remember most or enjoyed the most were like the dance rehearsals with a bunch of like different crew and cast members. Kashaya Dudley, Galen Hooks were choreographing and creative directing. And that's where I got to like tie together all of my interests, singing, dancing, acting. And so that felt like a real treat. And I will say that even though you would think then I would want to go do something like Broadway and live theater, like I was spoiled doing projects like Camp Rock because you could really like pour everything into that scene and get the benefit of the film format. but also the benefit of like tapping into all the different art forms. So if there's ever a chance to do another like TV musical or film musical, I'd definitely be open to that. But for now, I'm chilling. No jobs for a while.
So Alyson, you were able to combine your dancing with your acting career. You actually were a part of the Step Up universe. You played the role of Camille, who was actually Channing Tatum's younger foster sister in the first film. And you also reprised the role in the third Step Up film, Step Up 3D, with Adam Sevani. What was it like being a part of the Step Up universe? And tell me more about what it was like working with Channing Tatum and Adam Sevani.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, I finished Cheaper by the Dozen 2, I believe, and I wasn't supposed to be in the Step Up films. Actually, the producer on Cheaper was, or I think the director on Cheaper was the producer on Step Up, and they happened to be like looking for a young kid who could play Channing's sibling, but I think they were looking for a boy. I think like it was like I didn't meet the criteria at all. However, they couldn't find this person, and so the director on Cheaper was like, hey, do you want to just do this little role? It's very small. Like, you only have to be there 2 days. I think we shot in Maryland, but don't quote me. All the things blur together at this point. But I flew in and was like, this is amazing to be able to have the trust from a previous job. The referral for the next job, like that's, very important. And so I showed up, met Channing. We got to, go to the ESPN zone after set and bond a little bit and play basketball, college hoops. Like that was my thing. And he entertained that. So, I think we went there at least once, if not every night that I was there. And then suddenly, the movie came out and it was so much more than we could have ever imagined. And they turned it into the franchise. And I didn't know if they were going to bring my character back or not, but I was grateful when they did, and got to work with Adam. So Adam and I actually already had done like the JCPenney commercial campaign as kids. We had danced with Will Smith at the Kids' Choice Awards. We had done several gigs together, so we were familiar, and we actually felt like friends. So it was odd when we had to play lovers, but it was a beautiful experience being able to train with so many like exquisitely talented movers, choreographers, and to highlight the power of dance on film, especially with the 3D movie, adding a different dimension cinematically. But then also, Adam and I had our moment down the streets of New York together and pulled in, influences from Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and some of these, classic pieces. So just being able to bring that to a new generation was very meaningful. And yeah, I'm still in touch with a lot of the folks. And again, same with Cheaper by the Dozen, like it's a testament to the bonds that you form. And that doesn't always happen on sets, but I've been really lucky.
And the fact that you guys are still close today is amazing. So very cool to hear. Now, Alyson, as I mentioned earlier, the Grizzly Podcast is all about taking folks such as yourself who are constantly grinding, constantly hustling, doing your best to help motivate others along the way to stay on their Grizzly while working towards your dreams and goals. For our listeners and viewers that are trying to pursue a dream or a goal, if you could offer them any advice, what would you say to these people?
Yes, I would say my mentor or someone I really admire, his name's Jim Quick. He's a brain coach, speaker, author. He presented this concept to me and it changed my life. He asked me, what is your dominant question? And what that means is underneath all of the interactions and experiences we have in a given day, the way that we show up with people, the way we see ourselves, typically there's one dominant question that we're asking about life. For me growing up, my question used to be, how can I make every day count? Which was a helpful question in terms of like helping me be productive and stay on the grind. But then later on, I realized it also made me a little bit obsessive about trying to maximize every single day. like got a little too achievement driven. But if you have a dominant question, for example, like, how do I make people like me? Well, then that's going to shape how you show up in every situation as well. So I'm going to leave you with something to reflect on, which is, what is the dominant question that's driving your life? And then you can reflect on, like, what's the why of why you're showing up and what you're doing right now, and see if you can bring some meaning, a sense of renewed purpose, or direction to your steps. Because, the greatest journey we can take is the one that goes inward. And from that wellspring of wholeness, you can really bring such beauty, creativity, change to the world. But definitely, I'm all for living, inside out, not just outside in. So if you have big dreams that you want to usher into reality, like, also check in first with what's driving you, what your why is, and hold on to that, because when you reach certain barriers, you're going to need something to help stoke the fire and keep you going.
Well said. Wonderful advice. Alyson, thank you so much for joining us on the Grizzly Podcast. For our listeners and viewers right now that are interested in learning more about what you've got lined up, things that you're currently working on, or if they want to know more about you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main focus is Movement Genius. Again, you can try it for a month for free using the code Grizzly. And you can find Movement Genius and my own accounts just on Instagram. And then project-wise, I'm on several animated shows, which I don't talk about a lot, but they're wonderful and they're great. But my main focus really is the company. And then I'll be producing a podcast and writing a book that goes into detail on the landscape of, being a child performer in ways that we can better protect young artists. So definitely keep an eye out, and follow the community, join the community. We would love to see you in class.
Alyson, you're a wonderful soul. Thank you so much for joining us on the Grizzly Podcast. Looking forward to everything you've got going on this year. With that being said, Alyson, I'm going to leave you with this one last thing that we say here on the show. Alyson, stay on your Grizzly.
Thank you so much. You too.
Get it, pop. Let's get it.
Yo, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the Grizzly Podcast YouTube channel to access full episodes, video clips, and more on YouTube. The most authentic podcast is online at grizzlypodcast.com and on all major podcast platforms. Guest appearances and real conversations that will push you to hustle. The Grizzly Podcast is now streaming.
Hi, and welcome to Trademark Expediters. Whether you need a trademark or copyright, we can help make the process easy and affordable. Protect your company name, logo, or slogan with the trademark. Protect your songs, books, photographs, and other creative works with a copyright. Complete our easy online questionnaire in 15 minutes or less. Clear pricing, no hidden fees. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Get started today. Learn more at trademarkexpediters.com or call one of our friendly specialists at 1-800-510-1082. Affordable, easy, expedited service. Trademark Expediters.
We've shared success stories from people of all backgrounds and inspired others to pursue their dreams. Relive those moments and stream episodes of the Grizzly Podcast on our website, grizzlypodcast.com, and on all major podcast platforms.
Yo, turn it up.
Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.